Hey there, my name is Michaela, and I'm a 28-year-old mom of 2 girls under 4.
And my name is Patty, a 34-year-old mom of 2 boys also under 4.
And we are the hosts of What's Up Mom, a podcast about kids, friendship, and navigating the always changing world of modern motherhood.
So grab that cold brew or margarita, we don't judge, and crank up those noise-canceling headphones because this week's episode starts now. Happy Thursday.
Good afternoon.
But for everyone listening, it's technically Tuesday. How are you? Yeah. Upcoming world traveler that probably isn't stressed at all.
I'm doing the best I can, you know?
Just to remind everyone, Michaela is off to Disney on the 1st of November. And
going to meet the mouse himself.
She's going to go meet the mouse himself. And she is going with, just a quick reminder, a toddler under 4 and another toddler under 2. I think she's
Derek.
And Derek.
Which,
and
thank goodness, because I couldn't do this without Derek. But yeah, my whole family, my sister, her son, my mom and my dad, my other sister couldn't make it out this time. But it's going to be a wild time, starting from the minute we wake up.
There is a certain amount of bravery that I think that you have to go to Disney with those young of children. Will Cece be able to really enjoy it or not really?
So the best part about Disney is there are rides for all ages and sizes. Like you can be like have a baby on you, like you can have a newborn strapped on you, and there are rides you can still ride that won't hurt you or the baby, like story rides. Yeah, there's a ton that I think she can do. Charlotte is like 37.25 inches, and in order to unlock like all of these fun big rides that Derek and I want to ride, she needs to be 38 inches.
No,
and that's with shoes on though. Yes, I already have the big heel, like, but there are safety measures in place so kids don't get hurt. So you can't like stay on your tiptoes like our parents did when we were kids.
Just really high ponytail.
Space bun.
Space buns. Well, that's exciting. Are you, obviously you're looking forward to it. And how long are you going for?
7 days.
God,
that's 6 nights.
Can we all just pour one out for one's homies? Because seriously, Michaela's going to come back and her postpartum hair loss is just she's gonna be ripping her hair out down there in Florida. But I'm very excited. Are you going to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween thing, or is that over at that point?
So usually Halloween ends on November 1st and Christmas starts November 2nd. And as you can see, I'm a Disney Christmas gal. I love Christmas because of Disney. But very quick little excerpt here. I worked at the Magic Kingdom for almost 2 years. So experiencing the holidays at Disney World is something that you can't compare it to Frankenmuth here in Michigan. You can't compare it to anything. It's so amazing. But I think they do have like Christmas parties. They're kind of expensive and the kids are too little for them.
All right. Well, so what you're saying is that you are currently preparing your mind for Christmas, which is a terrifying thought for someone who is a self-proclaimed Grinch. I can't.
You got a couple days left, and then you're gonna hear her. I know we've all seen those videos.
She's almost defrosted. Well, I am super excited. Something else that's very exciting for us here at What's Up Mom is this is our season 1 season finale. So Ooh. I know that we have been, little earworms in your headphones and in your speakers and in your car since early July. We thank every single person who has been listening to us every single week. We are like 1 follower off of a milestone right now, and we are super excited to see how that is going to impact us for, you guessed it, season 2. So we'll stay tuned for that at the end of this episode and kind of see what we got going on. But I wanted to just correct Michaela from last week. We were supposed to do a Ask Us Anything episode, and we said, you know what? Nobody cares. So we're actually going to do my, I would say my more favorite Hallmark holiday topic, a spooky topic of mother's intuition.
I'm very excited for this.
So we'll start off with just kind of chatting about what mother's intuition is. And if you're a mom, you've probably experienced this weird,
Chilling.
chilling phenomenon where you just feel like something is off with your kid, or maybe you're right about something that surrounds your child, or you know what, sometimes it even extends to your spouse. Who knows? The only way that this doesn't affect you is you can't have your own intuition about yourself. It doesn't. You can't look in a mirror and be like, I think we're feeling bloated because of our period. No, it's just we're bloated all the time. That's the logic there. So let's go over some mother's intuition stuff. I know you kind of said you're excited about this topic, Michaela. So what is mother's intuition? What is it, and why is it so unique to us mommies?
That sounds like a great question that I have the answer to, that I think you have defined it here somewhere. Could you highlight it?
Again.
I found it. Thank you. Though, I think that you should take this one over because you already have it all right here.
So I'm just going to explain what mother's intuition is first, and kind of why it's so unique to us mamas and mommies. Though it might seem a little mysterious or even spooky in its accuracy, science suggests that it's tied to a mother's heightened awareness of her child due to factors like biology, experience, emotional bond, just kind of created through being a parent, being a mom. Hormonal changes, which we won't get into the hormones again. I know we went into that in an earlier episode. Hormonal changes during pregnancy and postpartum, like oxytocin. I almost always say Oxycontin, and I'm like, that is not a hormone. That's a drug. Oxytocin are thought to increase the sensitivity, while the day-to-day attention mothers give their children also helps them subconsciously pick up on kind of subtle cues that maybe others might miss. Mother's intuition is often cited as a very powerful tool in parenting, though it sometimes has to be balanced with some logic and maybe some external external advice. Now, I think mother's intuition is a huge umbrella of different things. It is, when your kid is kind of like mumbling something and outside parents or friends are like, what are they saying? And they're saying like, bush. And you're like, oh, that's toddler for I want an apple. Like, that's one part of it, right? Then there's the, my kid's been just off today. No particular reason, just off. And you're like, something's wrong. Why do you feel that? Why is it this sudden rush of, why is my brain, why are all the alarms in my brain going off? And every mom has experienced this, I think. I feel like I've spoken to a lot of mothers who are like, yeah, I just knew. And that's why I like this topic so much. So there's our definition of mother's intuition. Why do you think it's so accurate, Michaela?
Oh, that's a great question for me. I think that we are just wired biologically to be in tune with our kids. And some of you may not know this, but an interesting fact about reproduction and man, woman having baby, when you reproduce with your partner, their DNA enters your brain. So
Whoa.
After you have a child with a person, you can actually be on a very similar like wavelength as your partner, so much so that you're like both about to do the same thing. You look at each other like, what? And you're both about to like, I don't know, make lunch for the kids at the exact same time, because up here you're kind of like connected, or you're about to say, let's get Jet's pizza, and the other person's on their phone looking at local pizza shops. Like, you guys are in tune. So I think that's really cool.
Ooh, I like that. In tune. I guess I didn't know like the singular or the non-tuition version of intuition. So in tune. Got it. Do you have any kind of like cute anecdotal stories that where you were like, whoa, how did that
Whoa.
even happen? Like,
I do
am
actually,
I,
something recent, and not
am
with
I
the kids,
psychic?
but with Derek, and then I have more with the kids. I was cleaning out my uh, bedroom. I'm like, this is the time to clean everything. I want everything gone. So I started going through stuff, and I found this little slip for a tuxedo that Derek had put a down payment on but never finished like 2 years ago. So I text him and I say, hey, like, we haven't spoken about this tuxedo since he put the down payment on it, but I put it in my top drawer because I'm like, I'm gonna remember before he does. And I texted him. I said, maybe you should go, fit that tuxedo again and pay it off. And he said, I was just talking to my coworker about this like 2 hours ago. I said, there's no way that happened. And he was like, I swear, like, we're on the same wavelength. But when it comes to the kids, what primarily happens, what I pay a lot of attention to is I will wake up at night and then I hear like a minute later, well, like my kids are waking up, but I'm waking up before them always. It's like clockwork.
I like that story about Derek. The just feeling, something's coming up. That it happens to me. You ever have those feelings or those stories or those moments in your life that might maybe not are specific to your kids or your spouse or even to you, where you're like, am I psychic? Have I lived this day before?
Intuition.
Like, deja vu is like another really big one. I feel like I mean, there's definitely times where Groundhog Day is a thing with the kids and you're like, I've lived this day before. But I have a good one. I have two really. I mean, I'll tell you the creepiest one first. So when Raphael was about 3 months old, it was November, and it was right around my birthday. Lorenzo had gotten RSV the week before.
I know this story.
It's a creepy one. And Raphael was not very good with colds. He is now. I attribute that to him just being ill for the first 7 months of his life. But he had gotten COVID really early on, I think when he was maybe about a week and a half old. And he had a really hard time with his oxygen levels. Didn't hospitalize us, so it was fine. However, RSV for a newborn or a baby under 4 months is very serious. And a lot of the time they end up being hospitalized. RSV was running rampant this year in 2022, October, November. Lorenzo got it, and Chris and I were on alert pretty much the next 10 days because we just know it runs through the house every single time. So we ended up, we started to notice Raphael getting the sniffles, and he was so little back then that, he was still breastfeeding and all that stuff. I put him to bed one night, and I had kind of pre-prepared for this situation. One of our mom friends, shout out to the Stemises for giving us the Owlet baby monitor. I was worried about his breathing, and she ended up giving me the little foot monitor. So I downloaded the app, put the foot monitor on him, put him to bed that night. And I had actually gone out with my friends for my birthday that night, and was a little worried to leave him, but left him anyway, came back home, checked the baby monitor. He was fine. I go upstairs, I go to bed. Around 2 a.m, I kind of just woke up, had to pee, whatever, came back to my bed, looked at the baby monitor, looked like he was fine, and was like, something doesn't feel right, doesn't feel correct. So I actually ran downstairs, and I don't know why I was running, but I ran downstairs and I opened up Raphael's door, and I could hear him wheezing from the bed. And I was like, and I immediately grabbed him, and he did not look good. I've had one child before. He has never had these types of issues. And I knew in that moment, I'm like, nope, this is hospital situation for sure. So I ran upstairs, woke up Chris, and Chris was like, go. And I may have driven, like Vin Diesel, to the hospital in the most unsafe way possible to get my child to the emergency room as fast as possible. I am not someone to cause a scene in public. It's not my thing. And I was that mom running into the emergency room going, he's not breathing. And they were like, what do you mean he's not breathing? And I'm just like, he's having a hard time breathing. His oxygen, blah, blah, blah. And I was just an absolute disaster. But anyway, the moral of the story is that you knew, right? Now, the outlet and having that on him helped, but it didn't actually work that night, which I found to be funny. It was on him, and the app said that he was breathing fine, but I still knew. So don't trust technology all the time, people. That outlet baby monitor can work, and then sometimes, it's not the best thing. So
you can't put your full trust in it, yeah.
Right, exactly. There still has to be some fail safes for you to be able to make sure that you're looking at your kid and kind of taking stock in what's going on with them. The big thing, I think, with intuition is it's that gut feeling, right? Everybody has that. It's with everything. And something feels off or it feels good or whatever. How do you balance that feeling with the world? How do you balance it with logic and facts and grandmas and grandpas that are like, oh, that's
well,
ridiculous.
I was actually going to ask, when our parents' version of a baby monitor was just a sound monitor.
Oh God.
But that's the best that they could do. And before that, nothing, just put them in their bedroom and shut the door kind of thing. So I do wonder how the older generations got through those like scary illnesses and like, what did they do?
It's an interesting topic too. Maybe that is kind of how we've evolved through the years where, you don't have a camera or you don't have the sound to watch your kids all the time, at least back then. And you had to rely on that like full body tingling or that instinct, those instincts to kind of pop up and say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go check on the baby. And I wonder if that's getting muted a little bit because we are so dependent on technology. I mean, I definitely have not found it to be muted at all. I think I'm right 9.5 times out of 10 when there's something going on. But I wonder if other mothers maybe feel like, they're kind of feeling like, I don't always know, or you almost doubt yourself a little bit because you'll see a rash on your kid and it's like, well, I could Google it or I could just assume that it's fine. Like when do you take action, I guess? Right. And I know we've both been through these situations before, so.
Yeah, and our grandparents would just say, oh, you got a rash? No problem.
Put some Windex on it.
We go back to the chickenpox parties that I had because, back then you just took all the kids in the same room and they all had chickenpox at the same time. It's very different now.
I think we haven't had one of these in a while, and I think I've referenced this exact quote on one of our episodes before, but Patty's wise words: when you hear hoofbeats, don't think zebras, think horses, because a lot of the time it is the most common thing when there's something going on with your kid, medically, or even if they're a little bit older and maybe you feel like something's going on at school or they're not getting along with a kid or something like that. Like, a lot of the time a mom will be like, oh, they're coming home weird from school or they're not talking about their friends, stuff like that. And I don't pretend to know anything about that yet because my child is 4 and everyone is his friend right now.
I have a question for you. Do you think that you rely more on instinct or influence?
Ooh, good question.
Like Googling symptoms, or they're okay?
I think now after having 2, I go on instinct. I think Googling can be really scary. And I think too, when you mention things to people and you're like, oh, they have a rash on their leg or something. Those people and their lived experiences kind of come into the conversation and can almost make your anxiety worse and skew the instinct where, as a mom, like, it's just a rash. They were outside playing, they got into something and whatever. But the moment that I talk to a big group of people, it's suddenly poison ivy, an allergic reaction,
MRSA.
right, something like that. And that's where I start to doubt myself.
Right.
I hate, and bless him, the amount of times where Chris has been like, they're fine.
Oh, but do we hate that so much?
Oh, every bone in my body is like, no, they're not fine. And I am now fighting someone who is close enough to me that I'm in tune with, who isn't listening to what I'm saying. And I'm screaming at him that something is going on, and it is the worst.
And I think that part is actually very important because I could argue that that's functioning off of maternal instinct. So whether or not they're in good health and it is or is not going to get worse, your baby or child is still not okay in that moment. And as the mother, you're like, we need to fix this. I need this child to be okay, regardless of what's going on. Broken bones, sickness, they're upset, they're emotional. Like, you're going to advocate for that kid because your brain's like, I need this child to be happy right now, because right now they're suffering.
So we were on vacation in Canada, and Lorenzo was whining and just being super irritable and whiny. And I was like, something's going on. Didn't know what it was. And later on that day, I felt his head and I was like, he has a fever. Now, it was very hot outside. So sometimes that kind of skews your hand to forehead, very scientific measurement of whether or not your child has a fever. So we had just come in too. So I'm like, he has a fever. I didn't even have to really feel his head, but I was like, yep, that's what is happening right now. And Chris looked at me, he's like, nah, he's fine. I'm like, no, you need to go to the store and get a thermometer, because we did not bring one, because our children were healthy and happy when we left. And Chris goes, it's just such a pain to go to the pharmacy and get the thermometer. And like, we don't have any ibuprofen anyway. And I'm like, nope, need you to go. Please go. And he left. He was not happy about it, but he went, he listened. And as he was going, I felt Lorenzo getting hotter and more upset. And I'm like, you know what? We're going to put you down for a nap. And when Chris came back, I got one of those little strips to put on their head. 103.2.
Girl, you knew. Yeah,
I knew. I gave him some Tylenol. That kid was well and dandy the next day. And it's like, why did that happen? That was such a short amount of time. Why was there a fever? But who knows? I don't know. The 24-hour bugs are the worst, right?
And it's crazy because sometimes Derek will also be like, they're fine. They're just tired, or they're blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, but I need you to go get the thermometer, the oxygen thing. I need you to go get Vicks Vapor Rub and saline spray or whatever. But there are those times where I'm completely wrong, and they are just, having a long day, or they had too much sugar or something simple. So it's like for Derek and I, my anxiety is very manifested in illness, and I'd never want my kids to be sick. So whenever I cry wolf, I've really got to prove the wolf is on their way before he'll be like, okay.
And, anxiety or intuition and, instinct can sometimes
go hand in hand.
Right.
Yep.
And they kind of go into anxiety as well. Right. And that's when, you get into kind of the more serious things, which is, you just said it. My anxiety is rooted in them being sick. Well, you crying wolf, or so you say, is hard for you because you're like, are they sick? Are they not sick? Should I Google it? Should I talk to my friend? Should I talk to my husband? And you're clouding all of that with the thought in your gut that's telling you they're sick, they're sick, they're sick.
Right.
And I've been there too. I mean, Lorenzo had ear infections up the wazoo before we got him his ear tubes. He had, I think, 7 ear infections in 1 year. Every single time that he got sick, 3 days later, he would have an ear infection. And I'm like, maybe this will be the time where he doesn't get that. And lo and behold, 72 hours later, he's complaining about his ears. So I think it's just what's going to happen. You know how your kids are. You know how their bodies react. And you just have to go with it.
So another thing to discuss is because we're mammals, our fight or flight instinct is just biologically ingrained into us. So this is even before kids. If we feel like we're in a dangerous situation, your cortisol levels will spike. You will feel anxious. You will need to find a way out, B, a way to get through whatever's happening, whether it's psychologically or physically. Like our bodies are meant to function that way. And then when we have babies, our maternal instinct is to protect them at all costs. And I have some really fun examples of this if you would like to hear about how other animals have this crazy maternal instinct that I would even consider to be like, if we were to, as humans, act the way that some of these animals act, it might look a little crazy. It might look a little like you have a ton of anxiety, but it's protecting your kin. And that's the whole point of a lot of these species.
Ooh, I'm excited, guys. I have not seen these.
Panda moms, they cradle their young almost constantly until they're big enough to move around on their own. So pandas are born blind. They don't have a lot of movement. They're very small. The moms are like 300 pounds. They carry them around all the time until they're about 3 months old. So kind of comparable to us. We kind of start to sit our kids up between 4 and 6 to 8 months. So, but they are consistently holding them. So talk about suffocation of your children. Kangaroos they stay in their mom's pouch for 10 months.
Oh.
And then for the next 8 to 11 months, they are still nursing. They're still suckling from their mother. So they get to hang out with their babies a long, long time.
Oh my God, that poor kangaroo. I wonder if she needs... Do kangaroos get boob jobs? Because I'd like one. So...
In the animals kingdom, elephants are said to be the most protective moms on the planet.
Yeah.
Herds of females and children travel together in a circle with the youngest and littlest ones on the inside, moms on the outside. You see this in like the movie Tarzan, where everyone's making sure the baby elephant is like good. I forgot what the baby elephant's name was.
I'm gonna have to look it up.
But if one child loses the mother, all of the other mothers take in the baby as if it's their own. I thought that's very sweet.
Like lose them as in the mommy elephant dies?
Yes.
Okay.
Isn't that terrifying and terrible? So this is a longer one, but female octopuses lay hundreds.
It is octopi.
Thousands. On this website, it says octopuses.
No. That's a lie. Hold on a second. What? ChatGPT?
Octopotatoes.
What is the plural of octopus? Hold on.
This is coming from oneearth.org. It might be...
Damn it.
Okay. The other option I was thinking was it might be like a UK article, and I know some of our words don't translate the same.
All right. The robots have spoken. Michaela is right. Octopuses is most widely used.
Crazy.
And accepted in English. However, I was wrong completely. But octopodes is the correct plural form based on the word's Greek origins, even though it is not used. Octopodes. So,
all right, let me just bring it all the way back.
Please back it up.
Female octopodes lay hundreds, if not thousands, of eggs, and they keep the developing babies oxygenated and free of bacteria by fanning them with muscular organs called siphons. During this process, octopus moms stop eating and will not leave the area while guarding their offspring, no matter how long it takes for them to hatch. The longest time that this has happened is about 4.5 years. The octopus doesn't eat and sits in one spot with their babies. And then what's even crazier is after the babies hatch, she uses her siphon, these muscular organs, to push all the babies out into the ocean. And once they're all released, she passes away of starvation. It is a part of the life cycle for octopus. So she will give her whole life and all the food to hatch her babies, and then she just lets them live, and she passes away.
She crosses the octopus rainbow bridge.
No. Octopodati.
Sounds like a pasta. I think my favorite.
2 more, but go ahead.
Do you have flamingos on there?
No.
I like.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I like the flamingo one where they lose their pink when they give birth to a little flamingo chick, and then they eventually get their pink back. Okay. So everyone just chill and don't
After
cry.
like a couple of years, like us and the human species. I mean,
Yeah.
our postpartum can be up to 2 years long.
I think flamingos are around that time too, but anyway.
I think so. About 6 hours after dolphin calves are born, the mother will begin to nurse at least 4 times an hour for the first 4 to 8 days. Very similar, probably, to us. And then they continue to nurse their calves for up to 18 months. Have you seen how playful a dolphin is? That would be really frustrating. Like, that's like nursing a 2-year-old toddler, which, by the way, is very hard.
Yep.
And they are just most energetic little. Same with dolphins. I couldn't imagine. And they stay up with their mom for up to 6 years.
Oh,
And the final one, they just love their moms. The final one, sperm whales, they nurse their young for over 2 years. And resident orca mothers and their children stay together their entire lives, even after they have offspring of their own. That's why you see a lot of like orca hunting and like commercial fishing protests when we accidentally kill whales, because they're pods for life. And if you go and scuba dive, which some people may know that I do scuba dive, if you were to dive with whales and then 20 years later you find the same whale pod, they're all the same whales because they travel the world together.
This
really
was
sweet.
All magical information. And all I could think about from the moment you mentioned a dolphin was, do you want to hear my impression of a dolphin?
I think everybody does now. Okay. Okay, wait. Now, John, I want you to play a soundbite of a dolphin, and we're going to see how on point that is.
Can I also do a whale, but like an excerpt from Finding Nemo? So
yes. Okay, ready? Go ahead.
I don't know if sperm whales sound like what Dory was.
Wait,
like,
can we, before you do it, this is what we're going to set up, John. Thank you. Can you take an excerpt from the movie and put it side by side, and then people have to pick who's who?
Do you speak whale? Of course I speak whale. Hello. Good morning. I hope you have fun at Disney. Oh, God. All right. Well, that's the most embarrassing thing I've done in public. So that's, I don't have many.
Clip it. We're going to use it.
Seriously.
Later.
John, thank you for listening to this area specifically.
John's our editor, by the way. Season finale. Thank you, John, for all the editing. Thanks.
So, what's a good way to kind of strengthen your mom radar? What do you think?
Get off of the internet.
God, impossible.
I'll be honest with you. Like, the influence, it's both helpful and harmful in my opinion. I was thinking about, when I was talking to my Nana the other day, we were talking about how we don't spend a lot of time with family and the older generations as new parents, because quite literally, we really don't have a ton of time. And when we do have time, we're either working 1, 2, 3 jobs, or kids are in sports, or there's not like a Sunday like there used to be where we could all visit the grandparents. So I feel like traditionally, in a lot of cultures, a lot of families, you would spend a lot of time with your with your grandparents and your great grandparents, and you would soak in like a sponge a lot of that advice, which I think both has, can be tough when you're talking to the older generations, because there's a lot of things that are different now. But I think it can also be very valuable when they share your genetics and your, some of your biological attributes, because they didn't have that stuff to rely on technology. They only had instinct and what worked for them. And sometimes it works for us too, but we don't really talk about that kind of stuff with older generations anymore.
I think too, and we've kind of touched on this as well, is other people's anxieties can really hit on yours as well. So you don't want to sit there and announce to, like, I don't know, for example, if, my kid had a rash or something like that, if I tell my mom, or if I tell, Chris's mom, or if I tell Chris's sister, there's an immediate, like, they love the kid so much that they're like, well, it could be this and that and the other thing. And you're like, well, it's just a rash. I'm not really thinking it's anything else, or it's just a cough. And if you're not already freaking out about it internally, it's probably fine. My dad actually said something really awesome to me. This was before I had kids. My cousin has a son, and he was running around our deck, and the little boy ended up falling off of our deck and tripping, and we assumed hurt himself. We couldn't see him because he had fallen below the point of the deck, and we had about 20 people there, and everyone went silent. And everyone looked over to the mom, and the mom went, "Do not react." And the kid popped back up, and she's like, "Are you good?" And he was like, "Yep," and just kept running around. So I think too, like your reaction to your kids either getting hurt or something going on.
They soak it all up like little sponges.
Yeah, little anemones.
Sure, and those of us who are in the newer parenting generation, I feel like I have had this discussion with my parents. Like, the girls are getting a little rowdier as they're approaching like age 3 or age 2 and age 4. Like, I can't really corral them as easy as I used to. So when they're taking risks and they, I don't know, fall off of like something in the basement, just something low to the ground, you'll get this reaction out of some people like, and you're like, don't say another word, because as soon as they think that they should be hurt, or they like you're soliciting this huge response and reaction, they're like, "Oh, ow, dang, like that hurt." You're like, no, I know you're good because you've fallen off of that thing like 7 times the exact same way and you've never had an issue with it. So it is hard to function off of that.
I think the thing that you are told before you have kids from other mothers, and this like was the strangest thing to me, and I'm sure you probably heard this phrase before too, where you're like, "How do you know when they're hungry? You know, how do you know when they're sleepy? You just know. What if they're crying and they're wet? You know." And
as a new mom, you're so frustrated to hear this. But then as a seasoned mom, you're like, you just know.
You can't explain it to anyone. And
you cannot.
I know when Lorenzo is whine crying. I know when Raphael is whine crying. But if they get hurt, you will hear me marathon sprint across the house just from either
I've seen it.
The bump, like the, and you just wait for like 5 seconds. You hear the, and it's like this guttural cry, and you just know. But then you also hear like the, and you're like, "Share with your brother." You don't even have to see what's happening. You're like, "Lorenzo, Christ." So, I mean, key takeaway, honestly, the power of mother's intuition is just kind of knowing. You just know, and there's nothing that you can do. You can't explain it to anyone. We tried.
And there's two parts to this. I think I also find myself very guilty of having a thought in my head, or a, like, let's say rash. I have something in my head, and I will probably go to a couple people and several sources to validate what I already think is happening. And I think that's very toxic, because I'm just trying for someone else to agree with me, even though that might not be what's actually going on, instinct or not. So that's very difficult. And sometimes instead of Googling, I have to just rely on that instinct that I don't feel like I'm as in tune with as I should be, to be honest with you.
I took a piece of candy, and also Michaela says that I probably have an intolerance to candy, and she's probably right. And you know what? I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep eating my candy because it's Halloween, and there are tiny candy corn pumpkins everywhere in my house. It's like everywhere I look, there's a piece of candy.
There's a candy corn pumpkin on every ledge.
So, to sum up the entire episode, basically listen to your inner voice. Don't let anybody, influence you. If you feel like you need advice, ask for it. But at the end of the day, you know best. Mothers know best, right? And
yep,
dads, if you're listening, we're not discounting your thoughts and processes and intuition either. There are some dads. Chris has definitely been right about stuff before, for sure. So everybody has that kind of inner gut feeling. So
And just the same way that we share our partner's DNA in our brain, our partner's DNA is also in our child's brain. So we're all connected, whether we want to be disconnected or not. Your family, we're all, that intuition does fall in fathers, just very different. I think that's probably a very different conversation.
It's like a walkie-talkie to your kid. Just tune right into them, or radio frequency into your child's well-being. So I'm sure the biggest question on absolutely everyone's mind, I know that you probably think about it daily, is will there be a season 2 of What's Up, Mom?
Are we having this conversation now?
We're going to tell it to the fans. Of course. Do you want to say?
Wait, you go ahead.
Michaela doesn't actually know.
I'm waiting on you, so.
We have had so much fun these last, oh my God, we've been working on this for 10 months, you guys. You've only been listening to us since July, but we have been working on this since January of 2024. There will be a season 2. Do we know when that premiere is going to be? No fucking clue.
I think all of us are getting to the holiday season, and none of us can keep up with another podcast to listen to through Christmas and Thanksgiving, and so I think stay tuned for the year 2025. Let's get through the holidays and New Year, and we'll have a release date soon.
Absolutely.
I also want to know if our listeners are interested in a video podcast. If anyone is listening to us through YouTube or would listen to us through YouTube, that's kind of where a lot of podcasts are moving, in that direction. Are we okay with just audio? Do we want to see video? Do we want to dabble in it and see how we feel? I'll throw a poll on the episode that you guys can actually vote on. Just let us know.
Amazing. And just to piggyback off of what Michaela said, don't count us out for the holiday season. We will be dropping a holiday special episode once Michaela grows all of her hair back from her Disney vacation, and once I get over the fact that November 1st is considered Christmas. But we will be dropping a holiday special episode. Not sure when that's going to be, but think December. We know that you can't last without our voices until season 2, so we want to give you a little episode to hold you over. So keep that in mind. Do we have anything else to go with, Michaela? It's been a fucking pleasure. For these past 10 months. If you don't follow us on Instagram, we do have an Instagram page at What's Up Mom Pod. If you haven't followed us on Spotify, it will let you know when we release new episodes. If you haven't given us a rating, let us know what you think. Leave a comment anywhere you'd like. And Patty usually does this part, so I'll let her continue. Hit the subscribe, follow, like button. Leave us a comment on any of our socials. We absolutely love hearing from each and every one of you. And we don't have anything next week, you guys. Michaela's going to be in Disneyland, Disney World, wherever the hell she's going. But please comment on this episode. Tell us all of your spooky mom intuition stories. We love hearing from you. And we all hope that you had a laugh, learned something about kangaroos and flamingos. And we cannot wait to see you all back here for the holiday special in season 2. Have a great week. Goodbye.